My name is Julie Turney, and this is the HR Sound Off podcast show, the show created for HR and business professionals to discuss pertinent topics and trends as it relates to our professions. We're going to have amazing conversations with HR professionals from all over the world, get to learn their origin stories. How did they get into this profession? What do they love about being here? And how they want to set the record straight on that one misconception that really drives them crazy about our profession. Are you ready? I'm ready. Then let's sound off. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the HR Sound Off podcast show. I am your host, Julie Turney, and today I'm starting the segment on great HR tech and people who work in great spaces where HR tech sits. And my first guest is Vicky Yang, who is joining me today. And Vicky works for a company called Bonusly. So Vicky, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thanks, Julie. I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to kick off by asking you our first question, which is just tell our audience a little bit about who is Vicky Yang and what is your HR origin story? Where did you get your start and where are you now? What is your current role and where are you now?
Okay. So I started not wanting to go into HR. I thought it was something I wanted to do because I was like, I like people. People are great. So intern, which I don't know anyone who tells me like, oh, I love people. I want to do HR. I'm like, maybe you need to rethink that one a little bit. But started as an intern and then in a recruiting department and decided that kind of wasn't what I wanted to do. And actually went into the nonprofit space. Did that for several years, somehow ended up taking on HR responsibilities there, tried to jump into from a nonprofit to the corporate world by getting my MBA and thought, okay, I'm going to go into corporate social responsibility. Maybe I can help bigger companies, help nonprofits or the community. And yet somehow still ended up back in HR. And that's when I admitted my fate and just kind of went with where life was going to take me.
Trying to listen to the universe and just go with the flow.
Yep. And then, so did some big tech HR roles, mostly as an HR business partner, doing talent programs, a little bit in the recruiting department, mostly from a marketing perspective. And then kind of landed in a startup several years after being at like companies like Yahoo and Electronic Arts, and realized that was the space I love to be in. I got to do HR stuff. I got to do all sorts of different HR stuff, and I got to help build. There's so much more space, I think, at smaller companies to create things and more flexibility.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of the path that after about 15 plus years led me to Bonusly, where I'm now head of HR, which is also an interesting shift. This is my first time being head of HR.
Awesome. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So let me ask you this. What advice would you give to your younger Vicky? Versus all the experience, everything you've gained, everything you've learned about the HR space now. What advice would you give younger Vicky versus Vicky now?
Oh man. I think the biggest thing is to always lead with curiosity, which is something I do naturally, but being able to call that out and knowing that that's the strategy that I use has been super helpful.
Right.
I think not knowing all the answers is okay is also a good one. Like you can find them, you can find the people who know them.
Absolutely.
And if you keep thinking you have to have all of them, you will kind of almost block yourself in from ever growing. And then finally, know your why. Why did you want to come into this? Because something kept leading me here.
Yeah.
And I think knowing that has helped shape where I moved in the roles that I took and the projects I took on. And it made it so much more colorful and just helped me really dive deeper into, why I was doing something and make my impact stronger. So
Right.
knowing why I wanted to do something and why I wanted to go into HR,
Yeah.
why I liked it
Uh-huh.
was really helpful.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that, especially knowing your why, because I believe it's important that you should know, why you're getting into a particular career. If you don't know your why and you're not passionate about it, you find yourself wanting. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So tell us a little bit about Bonusly. What is Bonusly and how does it work?
Yeah. So Bonusly is a employee recognition platform. It's a way to create an employee experience and engage employees. And I think especially, and it's funny, I mean, I've been in HR for so long. I know recognition is important. It helps. But it's been interesting to see how this platform has actually can amplify culture and create and build trust and psychological safety, especially in the kind of in this pandemic work from home
Uh-huh.
space that we're in right now.
Uh-huh.
So Bonusly as a platform, primarily we do employee recognition. So it's peer to peer or colleague to colleague.
Right.
You get points you can give points to people, and the points add up to a monetary value that then they can redeem for kind of whatever they want,
Okay.
whether that's a gift card, cash, or donation to a nonprofit that they really want to support.
Uh-huh.
So it's an interesting product in that it really helps reward people as well, creates engagement that way. And
Mm-hmm.
then we also have a new part of our product called Signals, which is basically surveys. And so you can, if you're a manager or if you're HR, you can send a survey to whoever you want about anything you want,
Okay.
predominantly employee engagement kind of stuff, or
Okay.
manager like one-on-one type of things too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that it's a recognition platform. And what would you say you've learned about recognition that you didn't appreciate before having come to work at Bonusly?
Yeah, I didn't realize, like, which is funny because I teach this. So I train on this. I tell managers all the time, you need to give recognition because it creates psychological safety. It builds trust.
Uh-huh.
It also, we as human beings, we're not good at taking recognition
Yes.
often. We often see all the critical things. We
Yes.
hear all the negative feedback.
Yep.
Recognition's positive feedback. So it's been really interesting to see when it's not just manager to employee, but it's 360 peer-to-peer and public,
Yeah.
how much that builds up in terms of like amplifying culture when we tie it to values, so we know what we're trying to reward, right? We're trying
Mm-hmm.
to say, okay, this is what being a good teammate looks like, or being a good leader looks like. So it does
Right.
that. And then the other piece of it is it makes it easier to also take critical feedback after you've gotten all of this positive recognition,
Yeah.
positive feedback. So that's something I think I didn't appreciate about recognition before, is that effect on those pieces.
Yeah. Now you're able to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to HR professionals who may be struggling with that very same thing right now, no matter where they're at in their career? What advice would you give them when it comes to that recognition piece in their portfolio?
I would say, if you're trying to help your client groups with something like this, like it doesn't, there are platforms you can definitely purchase Bonusly, or find other ways to build that into things. So it could be very simple. It could be in your team meetings, right? And doing it. It could be a reminder that, okay, every Friday you've got to send one person a piece of recognition. Or if you're doing it for yourself, it's maybe you're going out to ask, hey, what's something I've done well? What's something I could improve on?
Mm-hmm.
And then asking, for that specificity that feedback needs to have, because that can help you be better at kind of whatever it is that you're doing. Or if you're trying to give more recognition, making sure you're building in a process to remind yourself to do that too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that our audience will appreciate that information very much. Recognition is one of those things that we don't always take the time to really focus on, but it really is a very important factor of employee engagement. And so I think that the nuggets that you have shared here, definitely eye-opening and very appreciative. Thank you so much for that. But you said that you've taken on a new role of being head of HR. As you went through your HR journey, is that something that you expected to be a part of your journey in HR?
Great question. And honestly, no. Actually, there's a lot. I can't.
Is that like how you didn't expect to be in HR?
Then when I got in HR, I know for a fact, I've said out loud, I was like, I don't think I ever want to be head of HR. I like kind of being somebody's number two, which HR is kind of the CEO's number two in a lot of ways.
Right.
When it comes to the people side of things. And so it wasn't on the roadmap. It definitely wasn't.
Uh-huh.
I stumbled across Bonusly's, and I did think if I were to ever do it, it would have to be at a place where I felt like we could make, where I could make a difference. Because I've watched how heads of HR struggle with a lot of things, and trying to move things. And for me, one of my biggest the things that I find most important, I value the most, is how a company is handling diversity, equity, inclusion. Mm-hmm. And so much of it's talk, and I didn't want to hear anymore. Like, yes, we know it's important, but seeing nothing be done. Yeah. And Bonusly as a company, when I interviewed with them, it was, no, we're not. They were past that piece of it too. They had redone their entire, for a company of 50, right? They had redone their interview process. They had a lot of things already set in place around performance reviews and trying to unbias things. And so I saw action being done. Okay. I thought, oh, this is great. There's a leadership team here that strongly believes this is important. Right. And afraid also to put their money where their mouth is, right? Where a lot of companies like, we think it's important, but you don't have any cash to do it. So go and try. Good luck. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, so it was definitely about building kind of into those pieces for me. And so I thought, okay, I will be a head of HR here. I feel like I can actually make a difference.
What were some of your first actions as you took on the role?
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing was really just trying to build trust and understanding. I think there is often a misconception of what HR does, whether you trust us or not. Yeah. Do we have your interests as an employee in mind? And it's actually this very, very complex balance of the employee, the company, the leaders, the organizations, and how are we going to be successful? Because if the company's not successful, we nothing else we can do, and we have to do layoffs, and no one's going to want that either. Yeah. So it's helping people in all areas of the company find this kind of balance. Yeah. So it was really the first couple of months were really listening, building relationships, building trust, and then kind of seeing, all right, where do we want to make movements to achieve kind of the people priorities that we had, and what should those priorities be?
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people slip up, because you come in as HR and it's like, okay, so what can I change? Mm-hmm. Versus, okay, what's working well, what's not working well, or just getting to understand the people, and building trust before you go and say, like, what can I change? Understand the people, understand why they do what they do, and then figure it out from there. Was it a case of figuring it out, or was it that you knew where you were going to go and what you were going to do?
I had an idea. I had a kind of a framework in my head that was loosely held, because I don't want to walk in thinking I know everything. Scaling startups are similar in a lot of ways. They'll face a lot of the same challenges, but where were they? Who were they? I think it definitely, not everyone's going to trust you off the bat. So what are you going to do to build trust? Yeah. Because that's my responsibility as a new person coming in. Mm-hmm. And I think, even outside of HR, that needs to happen. Like any new person coming in. And I think too often we get stuck in I need to make something happen now. I need to show my impact now. Yes. And that's not necessarily the first thing you need to do. And that's mostly, I think, for at least for me, my ego talking of like, exactly. I need to make sure I feel okay and that I'm supposed to be here, and here's why you got value out of hiring me. But really, like, the value is like, okay, well, let's figure out the whole situation and figure out what problems we want to solve, and then go
Yeah.
after those.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as a woman and as a woman and a person of color in an organization that is a tech startup, what are some of the challenges that you've faced, if any, with
Mhm.
regards to being a person of color in this leadership position?
Oh, that's a there's a lot there.
It's
I
a
think,
loaded question.
yeah, for me, it's the biggest things when I was kind of first going into like building my career, um, because I was quiet, I
Mhm.
actually was told, you know, you're probably not going to ever be a leader.
Mm,
And I thought, okay. And I kind of believed that myself.
yeah,
And then I was like, no, but I get stuff done just because I'm quiet and I don't always like, I'm not the first person to speak up. I'm not the one that says the most in the room. It doesn't mean I can't lead.
right.
And I think that was one of the things that I struggled overcoming. And maybe that's also why moving to a smaller company for me was better, because a large company, I faced it with several um, several of my managers, and also because the other piece of it too is I do a lot of work. I can
Yeah.
complete a lot of work, and you know, when you leave a company and they give your job to three other people, you suddenly realize like what the heck happened there.
Yes.
That I also experienced quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
So I think it was really those two challenges. Um, in HR, I feel like, you know, being a woman is not, it's not as bad sometimes, just because this industry is, it tends to be predominantly
Predominantly
women.
women.
But there is a, when I am in the room with others, and I think, you know, a lot of HR professionals just say this, is like, how do I make sure that as I'm sitting at the table with my sales leaders, with my engineering leaders, that if someone walks in, they can't tell that I'm the HR person. I need to understand the business. I need to be able to talk in the same way they do. I need to understand what they're saying. And if I can't, then yeah, I'm probably not doing my job actually.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was also hard, is trying to overcome that perception
Mhm.
of like, one, you're too quiet, or two, you don't know enough.
Yeah. That's a very common one. But you've overcome it, and here you are as head of HR of Bonusly. Congratulations to you, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, as you continue to develop and grow in your role and in your career. I will continue to look out to see all the amazing things that Vicky Yang is doing.
Thanks so much, Julie. It was so fun having this conversation with you.
You're welcome. And let me ask you this. Um, what are you reading, watching, listening to right now that you think our audience will enjoy?
Oh, right now I'm in the middle of Kim Scott's book, Just Work.
Mm,
I love it because there's a lot of actionable things you can do if you're trying to move that diversity, equity, inclusion needle forward. And things that I'm actually thinking about kind of implementing at Bonusly. And it's just really
mhm.
baby steps. I think that's,
Yeah.
I think so many of us, especially if we come from a background that is underrepresented, we want
Yeah.
to see the change now. And I have to
Mhm.
remind myself, it's okay if it's not now.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's definitely a good one. And the other one is Julie Zhuo's Making of a Manager.
Okay.
I read that one right before I started Bonusly, and it's been kind of this fun like manager manual.
Mhm.
The way she writes is really creative, and it was a good reminder of, you know, how to be a people leader and how to be a people manager.
Nice. Thank you. I will share the links to those resources in our comment section of the podcast. So here's the big question. What is the biggest misconception about HR that really bothers you that you want to set the record straight on right here, right now?
Oh God, there's so many.
One.
Um,
One.
just wanna,
I get that a lot.
yeah. I would say that HR is always on the side of the company, that we're there to make sure the company doesn't get sued. Now, I won't say that that's not true for some companies. I'm pretty sure it is true. I've
Yeah.
met HR people who's, you know, that's their kind of job and their purpose and whatnot. But for me, it isn't that black and white, right? Like, I think that's what I would love people to understand, that it's not this one against the other. It's how do we move forward together to accomplish, helping the company be successful, people be successful, and do that together. And also be okay talking about when it's not the right fit anymore. If it's not accomplishing one goal or the other, like there's no harm in leaving. There's no harm in saying, hey, this isn't what I want anymore.
Yeah.
But I love having those conversations of like figuring out, all right, what do you want to do? Can we help you do that here? Okay, maybe the company is screwed up there. That's an area we need to do better. And then trying to fix that on the company side too.
Yeah.
So really thinking of like, what is that goal that we want to walk towards together, as a company, as employees, as people managers, because everyone, if the company succeeds, then everyone's happy and everyone succeeds.
Yes, definitely. I like that, because I think so many times people do get that particular misconception wrong. But like you said, I think that there are people in our profession that are guilty of that. And therefore I could understand if that was your sole experience, why you would feel that way. But it's when people put the blanket cover and think all HR professionals are like that, How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's kind of sad, because one of the moments I'm most proud of in my life is when someone told me like, hey, Vicki, you make me not hate HR anymore, and I trust you. And I thought, oh, wow, that is so great. But at the same time, it made me incredibly sad that was the experience that they had. And I know that's common. And I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah. It really traumatizes me when I hear people say that about HR, based on their experience with me, they now have a love for HR, or a liking for HR, a better understanding of HR and who we are, what happens, what is at play sometimes, because a lot of politics is at play in HR. And that's just one of the things that we have to live with and deal with, because that's the role that we chose. But I think a lot of times there are professionals who really do make it bad for us. If you could speak to those HR professionals right here, right now, Vicki, use your loud voice. What would you say to those HR professionals who are making it bad for those of us who are really trying to be great and create a great impact in the world of work today?
I'd ask them and say, could you, look at yourself and ask yourself why? Why is that the way you kind of want to do things? Because I think what a lot of it ends up being is either there's an insecurity, because the HR role is sometimes seen as this thing on the side that we have to have. And so there's this desire to have an impact, and sometimes that impact isn't positive, but it's what the company may be rewarding. So to ask yourself, why are you doing that? And does it actually have to operate that way? Or is there another way you can operate and still try and achieve the same objective and find that balance?
Yeah, I like that. That's a very good question. Tell us what is next for Vicki Ann.
So I'm new to Bonusly. I'm only about 6 to 7 months in, and I'm really excited to actually see where this company is going. So for right now, this is where I'm settled.
Yeah.
And really actually seeing if all those things that I really want to do for a company, especially in the DEI space, we can do, and hopefully make ourselves like a case study in a way to say, hey, no, it's possible. And really work towards that piece.
Nice. Well, like I said, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me today. I will share the link to Bonusly in the comments, guys, so that you can go check them out and let them know that Julie and Vicki sent you. And I hope you enjoy using the platform. So thank you so much, Vicki. You survived your time in the sound booth.
Thanks, Julie. This was really fun.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us in the sound booth today. I hope that you found this information from this episode useful. You can find me on all social media platforms at I am Julie Turney. That's I-am Julie Turney. And you can find this episode or this show on most digital platforms, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Thanks to Anchor FM and Rock Solid Entertainment for helping me to put this content together for you. And I will see you again in the next Sound Off.